Hello and good afternoon, everyone. I am Ethan Dreger, Account Executive here at eScribe. Thank you so much for attending our presentation today. As you know, the topic is discussing in a school board specific manner, choosing the right meeting management technology. And instead of just having myself talking for today, we've gratefully brought in Nicole Guthrie, who's the Manager of Board Services at the Ottawa Carleton District School Board. Nicole, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So just a quick agenda while we go through, as we go through things today and general housekeeping. We'll start off with just quick introductions about myself and Nicole, get into Nicole's presentation on how she brought on eScribe and the process that she went through in doing so as part of that selection. And then from there, I'll share some time on other additional factors to consider when choosing your meeting management solution and best practices in doing so. And then afterwards as well too, we do have open Q&A period. Just a general reminder, everyone that is attending today does get a $25 DoorDash voucher. And the recording of the webinar itself will be shared with you following the call today by email. So thanks again for attending. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the questions section and we'll be sure to address them throughout the presentation. So, and about Nicole, who's speaking just a moment here. Nicole's been working for the last 20 years in the public sector. The last 5.5 years has been working as in board services for the school board itself. And one of Nicole's big projects was bringing on meeting management software and moving away from that paper-based process as it was previously. So excited to hear more about the process that she initially walked into and then grew into over time as well. And a little bit of fun. Nicole has a cat named Harvey Specter, which it sounds like he's solving all of the world's legal battles. So that's impressive. About myself as well too, I've been working in the public sector and software for the last 10 years in a number of different spaces, focusing on the education market in both K-12 and higher ed. Procurement software as well, used by many municipalities across Canada and North America. And then as well too now dealing with board and meeting management here at eScribe. Outside of the regular day, then I like to spend a lot of time with my partner and our dog. We try to be outside as much as possible. So without further ado, the guest of honor here today is Nicole. So Nicole, thank you for joining us and looking forward to learning more about your process as you brought on this the meeting management solution of eScribe.
Thank you very much. I try to keep my slide deck short and sweet. I don't like people to have to read too much, so I will talk over these and hopefully answer any questions that you might have at the end. So I started with this slide in that part of my role with the board was to actually implement moving from paper to eScribe. And it was the September 2018 SEAC, which is our Special Education Advisory Committee agenda, that was our first go live agenda in eScribe. And that took us from interviewing and reviewing 4 other options in the meeting management world from June of 2017 to September of 2018 to have a go live. And our go live, we first launched with our advisory committees rather than our committee of the whole and board for a number of reasons. It was starting off a little with baby steps. And in 2018, we were still, believe it or not, using paper. Our ultimate goal with eScribe was, of course, to eliminate paper. However, we had a number of challenges with our committee members who weren't overly struck on the idea of eliminating their paper agenda package. They love to sit at the table with their package, mark them up, and get their questions down on their paper package. And so COVID really helped in that respect, but certainly super proud of that first SEAC agenda, and wow, we've come a long way since September of 2018. So next slide.
Wow.
So I just want, in terms of the environmental impact of our organization alone, these numbers we pulled out to start to put it in context, what it looks like in terms of environmental stewardship, which is probably one of every organization's goals, is to reduce your footprint. And certainly producing paper agenda packages, when you break it down in page numbers, that's a lot. So that's per year. Our board packages were huge. Paper packages upwards of 150 to 250 pages, which translates into 66,000 pages a year. Wow. So put that into perspective, that weight is roughly the weight of a Holstein cow. That length, for anybody driving or familiar with the Ottawa area, it's the equivalent of putting the papers together and driving from Canada to Gloucester. So that's a lot. And certainly one of our big cues was the reduction in this paper. And our paper process was very labor intensive. So I think we can go to the next slide. So in terms of putting packages together in a paper world, we would have to manipulate extensively a Word doc, and we would receive the disparate parts from all of our managers within the organization, usually on a Friday afternoon. And we would have to build essentially a paper package. And one of our jobs was to hand number or folio each page. And in a 150-page document, you would have to folio and insert white pages, because the next step in your task was to take it down to the print shop so they could produce a certain number of packages, depending on how many people needed the document. So we would produce these enormous packages on Friday, and then we would stuff bags full of all of these agendas and courier them to our people, our committee members and trustees. So in terms of staff time to do this work, the print cost and the courier cost, it was a fairly significant investment in terms of costs, like upwards of over $20,000 annually for that.
Just for printing and for courier costs, like you said.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow. So you have some additional time on your hands, or maybe not, but curious to hear how things have evolved for you, given you've moved away from that paper and online. And sorry if I'm taking words out of your mouth here, Nicole.
No, interestingly, as I said, we did have, and any organization with a change or undergoing a change process, there's going to be, you're as fast as your slowest member. So we had a number of trustees and committee members who were addicted to their paper package. So we had, from 2018, a year of moving away from the paper package. However, that COVID certainly helped us out tremendously with that process, as we kind of went from March of 2020 fully remote and no more paper packages. And by June of 2020, everybody was fully 100% on board and completely committed, which my little takeaway from that was, we should have done that anyways. We shouldn't have phased in the approach, because for a while we were running both of these systems. We were running eScribe, which was meant to and designed to be online and used, in the comfort of your app on the iPad, or for some of our other trustees who are more familiar with a laptop, in their laptop window version. We should have just cut it off immediately and forced everybody in there, and we would have provided them the support they needed to get over that hurdle. So silver lining of COVID.
Yes, of course. So that brings up an interesting question as well. So, thinking of your comment of those who are addicted to paper, call it your board members themselves, and during that, that 1 year transition where they did have the option of both. What was the experience in encouraging the uptake of moving online from those that were addicted to paper? And do you have any guidance or tips and tricks on how we can make sure that those folks do move online when they're initially reluctant to do so?
I would say that go cold turkey. Like really, we were forced to, and for the person, anecdotally, the person on our board that was least in favor of this approach was actually one of the very first adopters of voting.
Awesome.
And
Wow.
it was really surprising to me. They went from, I'll never use eScribe online, I want the paper all the time, I'll never use it, to being the very first one to tap in and get their vote in.
Wow. Do you have any idea what, anecdotally, what you think caused that shift for that person mentally, or maybe it's hard to pin down specifically?
No, I know exactly what it is. They realized how easy it is.
Awesome.
I think that when you first get into eScribe and using the app, and we provided a lot of training to our both our senior team and our trustees, and that's something that you have to be prepared for. So jumping ahead a little bit for in the implementation part, training is a big piece, and eScribe does a really good job of preparing the staff for the rollout and the setup of all of our documents and how we use the software. But we ourselves did a lot of hand holding and work with our senior team who use this every day, and more importantly with our trustees, to make sure they were comfortable in using both the Windows version or the iPad app version. And that is one thing that you have to build into your timing of your implementation plan is definitely training. And certainly we're all coming into a new time in this fall after the municipal elections. Many will have a lot of turnover, and we're all going to be back to square one a little bit in terms of getting our new members up to speed, and training will come back into the mix again.
Yeah, curious to, given your experience, going through a previous election as well, I would imagine, I guess the question is, did you have much turnover and training required for those users at the time, or paper-based users, I guess is the best term, as opposed to, how are you feeling about training for this year?
We were entirely paper-based, and so we did have a lot of training just in general, and we do have a lot of training in general. I think it is probably going to be easier as we can do a lot of this training one-on-one or via Zoom or collectively, but having eScribe there. In fact, we in 2018 put our trustee orientation package in eScribe. We built it in eScribe because it is so good at building and compiling documents. And then for ease of use, easy for them to go through and, well, I don't care about item 3.5, but I really care about item 8, get to that quite quickly and use and see the document that's attached for that one. But also the ability to mark up and use a PDF in its entirety, make notes, and do all the things they would in paper. So it helped us in 2018 when we were still in paper, produce the package too, to print, rather than hand numbering all of these pages. And so I'll come back to the risk management and security piece, because we're jumping ahead a little bit here, but believe it or not, in our paper world, our definition of secure was printing it on goldenrod if it was restricted, stamping the top of the printed copy, and numbering it accordingly for distribution, and noting in little check boxes who was responsible to get said goldenrod.
Wow. And then hope.
Hope for the best. Hope for the best that when we distributed this paper, that somebody wouldn't leave it behind, that somebody wouldn't take it home or be in Starbucks and leave their restricted agenda lying around. That's a risk to the organization when we have some pretty sensitive information that we're dealing with.
Sure.
That's not secure at all.
No, of course.
I have to say that while working and understanding the closed meeting section of eScribe takes a little bit of time, it's certainly worth it. And getting trustees trained to tap on the little I so that they can move into the closed section sometimes takes a little hand holding as well. But in terms of security, we can be sure that the people who are supposed to see those documents are seeing those documents and nobody else. The goldenrod copy is not going to be left in Starbucks. It's not going to be left on somebody's desk. It's all tucked away, hidden, and we still have control over the document, but we know who's going to see it.
And there's no risk of, I mean, even the inherent risk of, a fire, right? And paper, the actual paper just going missing in that sense, or dog ate the homework, whatever that might be. But that's wonderful to hear. Anything else to comment on that, the risk management side of things? And I know everyone is obviously so much more focused on security these days with everything around. So sounds like that has helped to really meet your needs.
Absolutely, and it's going to become, I think, even more important. And hopefully we're going to be working with eScribe to talk about a little bit more about some security things, as where digital transformation is also another, probably a key buzzword in other organizations, but certainly one of our strategic goals. So security and managing risk are our top priorities for our organization. So eScribe has certainly helped us with managing some of the documentation risks that we used to have.
Awesome. That's great to hear. I'd be curious. So we've covered off a lot here, obviously, the actual, time savings and actual cost savings in print and courier, et cetera. And then, of course, enabling just a more secure environment and easier access to the information itself for only those that are required to have the relevant access. And then, of course, for implementation, the timing involved. You mentioned, initially getting the CRISP agenda online in September 2018, and then finally having the big push to move online because of COVID itself, and great training, great baked in there. Of course, not everything goes properly all the time. We're all, companies run by humans itself, and I know there's going to be issues here and there. So do you mind commenting on your experience with you've had challenges with eScribe?
We have, I mentioned this to Ethan before, and also to anybody else. I love eScribe. I've loved eScribe from when we were testing other vendors. I was immediately, eScribe was the clear winner for us in terms of just visually, ease of use. I can't say enough. And in fact, I talked to my friends in the municipal world, and I think I ultimately helped convince them move to eScribe. And they enjoy it now as much as I do. And we get to now over wine talk about eScribe and our challenges or our thrilling adventures in eScribe. But there are and have been, and I'm sure will continue to be challenges. What I will say up front, in all of these challenges, the eScribe tech support team are always there to support us, and they do their level best to solve the problem. Or in some of our cases, we've had an ongoing issue since day one that isn't quite resolved, but they know it's still not resolved and they're still working and looking at ways to resolve it. One quick, Fridays are our busy agenda get out the door days. And last Friday, for instance, we had an issue where several of our attachments got revised later in the day, and we had uploaded versions that were now Rev A's when it needed to be Rev B's. So we needed to pull them down, but for some reason, sometimes documents get stuck in there. And none of our team working remotely were able to do that work. And of course, the agenda has to get out the door. I was immediately like, urgent eScribe support. I have documents at item 7.2 of the committee of the whole agenda for this date that need to be deleted so that we can upload them. And within half an hour, those documents were deleted and out of there, and we were able to carry on and get done what we needed to get done.
Awesome. That's great. I appreciate that. Sorry.
We had issues too with respect to our recording and live streaming, and we've actually had eScribe support team come into the meeting and sit in the back end of our eScribe session while the meeting was going on to see if they could troubleshoot in real time. So that's the kind of support that you're going to get, and you'll be on a first name basis with all of their tech team. And I just have to give out a shout out to Joel, who is my like,
he's amazing.
He's my #1 tech guy.
We'll be sure to pass that along. Well, thank you. Well, I appreciate it. So I know we've just got 5 minutes left, and I've got a few topics to cover off. But anything else you wanted to share in here as well, too, Nicole?
I could go on and on. You asked me on eScribe, because the one thing I will say is that before I was in the management side of things, I was the one responsible for the back end of eScribe as well, and setting up our entire system with the templates and you name it, the attendee lists. I know how to do it all in eScribe, and I loved every second of it. Once you're trained and once you're working within it, it becomes like second nature. And while our process, maybe the time is used differently now, whereas before we were sitting at a table hand numbering things, now we can be working as a team together and really reviewing things and making more important changes than just scratching out a number and renumbering. We can be looking at the reports critically and going, wait a second, staff member X forgot to put a header on there, or there's a typo, and we can be making those bigger corrections to documents as opposed to little things that I guess when I look at it now, were maybe not the best use of our time.
Sure, that's great. Well, I appreciate the overview and the positive words as well too. So I'll fly through my next couple of sections here, and for anyone on the line, we'll be sure to share this in further detail. I've got some takeaways from this. I did want to talk about some of the best practices in choosing the right solution itself. In the interest of time, I think it's best that I can forward this following the call itself. But I think some really important points here are much of the stuff that Nicole has talked about. Is the solution meant for your industry? Is it designed for a school board? Is it designed for your municipality itself? And, is the functionality built in for those that, for your specific industry as opposed to being something broader? Does it work well in your environment? Always check with your IT team and understanding needs in that front. And then from a long-term plan perspective, make sure that you find a company that wants to work with you when it comes to roadmap and product feedback. I think some of that has come out naturally from Nicole's conversation as well. As I think a big piece of eScribe is making sure that we are continuing to add new functionality that our clients are requesting and optimizing the process as well too. And so is someone there as part of your long-term partner. From a security perspective, we've talked about that as well. A huge focus and increased focus. Customer support is such a critical piece of buying any software. This is always number one for me, is make sure that you know you're going to have the help that you need, because you will need it regardless of what you buy. And then implementation, we've talked about that, as well as the last piece just on data you cancel, making sure that you have access to your data itself. So we'll share some further thoughts on that following the call. And then just to touch on what is eScribe, if anyone isn't aware itself, in the 30-second overview, eScribe is really designed to make it easy to move away from paper, as Nicole has said, and move completely online. So tying in everyone connected from, you have your meetings that need to be run, and then we have different attendees that need to attend these different meetings. Some of those are the actual participants, and then there's the public that can get involved as well, the contributors that are actually submitting their reports to get onto the agendas, and then administrators like Nicole, who need to be able to actually build all this, put the agendas together and put them out there. So eScribe is all about marrying all of that up in one easy to use system, making sure that everyone can be connected and have access to the right information at the right time, and providing the levels of security required so that only the correct information can be accessed as well too. eScribe is modular, so you can start small and grow into things like webcasting over time. And then there's a big focus on, like I said, R&D, making sure that we are continuing to optimize the platform. And then also accessibility is one thing we haven't really spoken about too much today, but we're really making sure that we are continuing to be there for our clients and make sure that you're achieving all the required compliance over time. And so the last thing I wanted to mention is that we're actually running a promotion. So any clients, any new school boards interested in coming on board with eScribe, we're actually offering a 25% discount off of the initial year's fees, as well as waiving implementation services for anyone that is able to sign with us by the end of June. If you are interested in having that conversation, we're happy to get the ball rolling, and we'll make sure that we have our team available to discuss further. We're happy to set up demos to walk you through the platform or introduce you to references that might be in your area as well too. So love to have anyone on board, and this is one, I think, the best offer that I've seen certainly since I've started working here. So looking forward to seeing some folks take advantage and have some savings hopefully as well too. In the interest of time, I think, Nicole, if you don't mind, there's one question. There were a few questions that have come out in the chat itself, but I think the biggest one that we haven't really touched on too much, if you don't mind, in the short period is, what sort of feedback have you had from either citizens, I guess ideally citizens, but from citizens, board members, etc., as you're providing these online agendas, and how is it improved? There's a greater request for data itself. So what sort of feedback have you had from the citizen community as well as your board since bringing on eScribe?
In our world, I think one of the biggest compliments we can get is no feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly in our world, everybody likes to criticize and point fingers and tell us what we're doing wrong. We've had, since we have been posting our agendas online, we've had nobody say anything. So neither good nor bad, but I think to me, that's a compliment, because everybody can access the information. And the HTML view looks just as good on your phone as it does on your laptop. And I use both frequently. And in fact, we've gotten away from production of the full PDF package in favor of just the HTML, because the other thing we're going to be doing this fall is driving more people to the HTML agenda, so that in the top corner, when we're live, our meeting is running. And I love the visual of an agenda and the meeting in progress. And it puts everything into perspective. Here's why we're here, and all of these items will be discussed. and here the meeting is happening in real time. I think it's just a great view for all of our constituents to be able to see their board at work.
Great. Yeah, I certainly agree. I know the old adage, no news is good news, and I think that definitely applies here. And in public sector, it's staying out of the news is the best possible thing. So I think that's excellent to hear as well too. So thank you, Nicole. I know we're over the time, and I appreciate everyone joining. So thank you so much, everyone. Nicole, huge thank you to you for coming to speak with us today, and yeah, we look forward to continuing to grow with you over time. So for anyone else, if you do want to set up a demo, we actually have a webinar coming up on the 16th where we're doing a live walkthrough. I'm happy to take you through the platform on my own at any point in time on a one-to-one basis. So any questions or interested in exploring that that free offer, that discounted offer, then please feel free to give us a shout. So thank you so much again, everyone, today. And Nicole, thank you again as well, too. Much appreciated.